In 2019, YouTube was caught violating the Child Online Privacy Protection Act, or COPPA. Since settling, YouTube has enacted new policies that are meant to serve as a smokescreen so they can dodge responsibility and scapegoat creators. As such, for my own protection, it is my obligation to advise you that this video is not aimed at children. My target audience is not children. Parental discretion is advised. Hey guys, how's everyone doing? This is Sir Jedi Sentinel, and welcome back to Sentinel Vlogs. This is a video I've had on the docket for a while now. I just never got around to actually doing it because I never had the time. Well, I do now. It's Sunday afternoon, and, I won't be able to watch Flux until Monday morning and record my review that day, so here we are. Since it is the 50th anniversary of the Master, I thought I would do a re-ranking video. Obviously, I think a few years ago now, I already did a ranking video, but I find a lot of my opinions have changed, and also there are two masters I'm adding to this list. Yeah, I thought, okay, it's overdue to, tread this ground again. So before we begin, couple things. One, everything presented is my own opinion. You are more than welcome to disagree with me. Especially because I think I'm going to have some hot takes. Two, there are going to be a couple of masters I'm not counting. I am taking the expanded universe into consideration. Because they each only had one story, and it was a good story, mind you, I just don't feel it's enough to properly judge these masters. I will not be counting the Young Master, Milo Parker, or the Lumiat, Gina McKee. And two, because I see these fan theories all the time and I get kind of sick of them, I will not be counting Swarm or the War Chief, because they are not the Master. You know who you are. So really, without further ado, let's just jump right in. You know how these ranking videos go, so I will see you on the other side. And kicking off our list, number 11, my least favorite master, the Saxon Master, John Sim. Oh boy, where do I even start with this one? Well, I know where to start. So, in behind the scenes stuff and documentaries and whatever you call all the featurettes and stuff, everyone kind of talks about how John Sim is supposed to be a mirror of his doctor, David Tennant. So you're already kind of mirroring a doctor I don't like, for starters. And two, that kind of brings something else into the problem. John Sim plays it way too big. Way too big. He is too goofy. He is too over the top. There is no sense of menace to him at all. I look at him and I laugh. I don't feel threatened by this incarnation of the Master. And a lot of people say he gets better in World Enough in Time, The Doctor Falls. Yes and no. Now, I love World Enough in Time, The Doctor Falls. It's my favorite New Who story. But he is kind of the weakest part of it. It's like he kind of just fades into the background until he needs to become relevant again. And which brings me into the thing, he's so toned down that he's kind of a non-entity. I have yet to see this master used good. Number 10. The First Master, James Dreyfus. Okay, so first things first, we got to address the controversy. James Dreyfus is a transphobic piece of shit. And he decides that when his opinion is called into question, he would rather verbally attack and spar with a child and double down on his horrible toxic opinions. All that being said, I am trying not to let the controversy cloud my view of this master. And what is that view? He is one of the blandest, most generic, unoriginal incarnations of the Master. So, like the name implies, this is supposed to be the very first incarnation of the Master in his timeline. And the way the writers have done that is they've stripped away all of the unique personality traits from the later masters and gave nothing new to Dreyfus. Yes, he is in the early stages of his life as the master, but still, there's got to be something in some way that he stands out from the other incarnations. And unfortunately, with this master, there just isn't. As a joke, I call this incarnation the master's greatest hits, because that's what it feels like. A lot of his stories, all of his stories, honestly, feel like, okay, hit this beat next, because this is the beat every master has to hit in every story they're in. And it doesn't help that, like, for example, in the what was the name of the story? The Home Guard, the second Doctor story he was in the making of feature, Simon Gurrier just said, "Oh yeah, I basically just wrote Roger Delgado." Like I said, bland, generic, unoriginal. Number 9, the Tremus Master, Anthony Ainley. Ainley is a master I really want to like. Like, my problems with this master are not Ainley himself. They're the shows. Like, I think we've all heard this story by now. Ainley wanted to play the role very suave, very charismatic, kind of like Roger Delgado. But the powers that be, the producers, the director, basically the show said, no. You are a Saturday morning cartoon villain. That's how they made him play it. Very rarely did Ainley get to play the role the way he wanted to. Like, I think the standouts are Survival, The Destiny of the Doctor's video game, and Logopolis. A mess story, but it's my favorite Ainley performance. And, but like the rest of the time, he was just this campy, over-the-top cartoon villain. Also, Council of Geeks said this about Anthony Ainley, and I'm inclined to agree with her on this statement. When you have a villain who is designed to always lose in the end, sooner or later, if you keep bringing them back, and they're going to lose all sense of menace. And that's really the big thing that happened with Ainley. Between season 18, Tom Baker's final season, and 23, Colin Baker's final season, Ainley made a minimum of one appearance a season. He was in seasons 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and then, thankfully, during the McCoy era, he took a break and only came back at the end in 26. But, that was 8 seasons he was in. During all of 80s Who, he was only absent for 2 seasons. And that was kind of the problem. Like I said, he just kept coming back to the point that he was not a viable threat anymore. Number 8, the Unbound Master, Mark Gatiss. So, real quick, this is not a quote-unquote actual incarnation of the Master. This is a version of the Master from an alternate universe, which, thanks to events in the War Master Series 4, now exists in the main universe the show takes place in, like the Unbound Doctor does. There's just not a lot to say about Gatiss. Again, he feels kind of generic, but Gatiss as an actor has the charisma and the presence to still pull it off. I enjoy his performances we've gotten so far, but it just, in the stories we have, I feel like we could get a little more than what we've been getting. And my really big hot take, the one I'm worried is gonna get me crucified. Number 7, the Unit Master, Roger Delgado. The one who kind of started it all. And, oh boy, so let me kind of set the stage for you for what it was like. Now, as I've said before in videos, I didn't start watching Doctor Who until 2012, until Day of the Doctor. And then I kind of picked up from there with Series 8. And at the time, I didn't have an income, and I was not aware BritBox exists. Actually, at that time, I don't think it even existed yet. It might have. I could have been wrong. But anyway, At the time, here in the US, DVD Region 1, the Region 1 DVDs of Classic Who serials were out of print. And the ones that were still for sale were expensive. So it was a long, long time before I finally saw a Roger Delgado story. And while I was kind of in that period of waiting to see one, I'd seen the fandom really build up Roger Delgado, hype him up as the best incarnation of the Master to date. And then finally, a few years later, I finally got BritBox. And I started watching Delgado stories. I think the only ones I have yet to see are the ones in season 9. I've seen the Sea Devils. I think there's one more in that season. But I've nearly seen all of the Roger Delgado stories. And this fandom way overhyped him. So here's the hot take part, the thing that I'm really concerned and worried about. Roger Delgado is the most overrated incarnation of the Master. He's not bad. There are certainly Masters who are worse, as we've seen, but yeah, just the expectation the fandom built up in me versus the reality we got. By the time I finally started seeing the Delgado stuff, I just wasn't impressed. It was like, oh, I was expecting this to be so much better. That being said, I will close this out with a positive. There is one thing I really like about the Delgado Master. There's no real sense of theatricality to him, and it really helps him stand out. With the other Masters, there is this, as I just said, theatricality to them. This sense, this sort of sense of, welcome to my grandiose evil scheme, Doctor. And Delgado doesn't do that. He's very casual. And I like that casual. I like how casual he is, compared to that the melodrama the other Masters give. Delgado's just like, so this is what I'm doing. And that is the best part of Delgado for me. Just how casual he is about what he's doing. The one I was kind of concerned to be talking about at this moment. Number 6. The Spy Master. Sacha Dhawan. And the reason I'm concerned about talking about him right now is because there is speculation, I think just pure fan speculation, I don't think anything's been confirmed or even hinted at, that he will be showing up in Flux. And, that appearance, if it happens, if it does exist, might kind of change things. But, we don't even know if that's going to happen. So based off what we had, I like Dhawan okay. I like his performance mostly. I feel like he was kind of inconsistent though. In Spyfall, he was very, very suave, very charismatic, very calm and composed. But then he was prone to these fits, these outbursts of just unbridled rage. He approached it it was very Anthony Ainley. But then in The Timeless Children, he was just John Sim 3.0, Oh, I forgot to talk about that with Sim. This characterization of the Master, I call it the manic maniac, very outwardly psychotic. The Master's always been psychotic, but he's in Classic Who, he was very composed. He hid it underneath this sort of mask of being refined. Whereas the new Who Masters, they don't care. They show off just how insane they truly are. And John Sim was kind of the first one to do the Manic Maniac. And since then, we've had 3 more Manic Maniacs. All of them do it better than John Sim. And Sacha Dhawan is one of them. But yeah, that was kind of the thing. Just how inconsistent it was. From that sort of composed but prone to fits of rage, the sort of Ainley way he was in Spyfall, to the more just overall manic Sim way he was in The Timeless Children. What ranks Sim so high for me is his chemistry with Jodie Whittaker. Neither of them are my favorite Doctor or Master. Obviously, Dhawan is my 6th favorite Master. Whittaker is my 2nd favorite Doctor. But the Whittaker-Dhawan Doctor-Master dynamic is my favorite in the series. They are just absolutely electrifying together. Their scenes are some of the best Dr. Master scenes in the entire show. Number 5, the Morphant Master, Eric Roberts. So, honestly, I think what happened with the movie was not Eric Roberts' fault. Look at his filmography. Look at some of the projects he's taken on. He did a movie called A Talking Cat. And just looking at a lot of these projects and a lot of the performances he gives, Eric Roberts is the kind of actor, at least in my opinion of him, who needs a really good director. And just in the TV movie, he did not get that. And then, cut to over a decade later, he's now done Big Finish. And we've seen what he can do with a good director. Basically Big Finish gave him the Colin Baker treatment. A lot of people didn't like Colin Baker because of his TV run, but then he started doing Big Finish, and the material he was given drastically improved him in people's eyes. The same thing happened with Eric Roberts. Listening to his stuff, he is tremendous. And that's kind of par for the course, because on paper, depending on how you feel about American actors and Doctor Who, of course, on paper, Eric Roberts as the Master is a brilliant choice. And just now that we've got good stories with great directors in them, we've seen what this Master is truly capable of. And, this Master, more than any of the other incarnations, is an animal. He's motivated by this really strong survival instinct, even stronger than the Decaying Master's survival instinct. This Master knows his body is essentially rotting, so he needs to act really fast in order to keep living. And that pure animal instinct is really what makes this Master so terrifying, because he's going to take drastic measures. If nothing else, if you've never heard Big Finish before and you're kind of curious, get Eric Roberts' Master set, and see just how great a Master he is, just how utterly terrifying and menacing he can be under the right circumstances. Number 4, the Decaying Master, Peter Pratt and Jeffrey Beavers. Now, in my last Master ranking video, I counted these two incarnations separately. I don't really know how I managed to pull that off, because while there are some differences, they are generally the same incarnation. But yeah, so basically here I'm counting them together. Although, hot take, again, I actually prefer Peter Pratt over Jeffrey Beavers. I like his voice more. I think he's just more menacing. And I actually do like the mask. A lot of people say with The Deadly Assassin that the mask is kind of the worst part of Peter Pratt's incarnation of the Master. I'm inclined to disagree. I really like the mask, and I think it works. Also, in that regard, I actually do find that Peter Pratt's voice and vocal performance is able to transcend and go beyond the limitations of the mask. But the mask does a really good job of just showing kind of this rotting skull. And that's kind of interesting. This is the most grotesque incarnation of the Master. Not just physically, but morally as well. There's no charm to this Master. Unlike all his other incarnations, he lacks charisma in the best way possible. This Master is a monster, plain and simple, in the purest form of the word. Again, not just physically, but morally as well. He does not bother hiding what he is. Which is another way this Master stands out, because like I said, the other Masters, before resorting to flat out evil, they will try to charm first, and then hypnotize. and then flat out evil. But this master doesn't bother, and that's something I really like. He really doesn't care. Like this. I really don't know what I'm saying about this one. Oh God, what's the word? He's really, I guess, uncaring. I said he doesn't care, so uncaring is the word. He's the most uncaring incarnation of the Master. He doesn't care who gets in his way. Anyone and everyone is expendable or an obstacle to him. Number 3, Missy, Michelle Gomez. So, I've always liked Missy. I will forever stand by she is my favorite new Who Master. She is John Sim done right. She does the manic energy, the very outwardly psychotic, but unlike John Sim, she manages to tone herself down enough that she still can be an imposing figure. The thing that really improved Missy in my eyes is the expanded universe. Because my thoughts on Missy have kind of evolved over time. It used to be, I like the performance is the best part. It's the material I have problems with. And now, thanks to Missy having more stories and stuff, I can more accurately pinpoint that problem I was having. I don't like when she's written by Stephen Moffat, because all of Moffat's issues with Missy can really be summed up in his cliffhanger for Darkwater. I couldn't very well keep calling myself the Master, now could I? Why couldn't you, Missy? No, really, why? And that's it. Moffat does not treat her like the Master. And that's really why she's kind of improved so much in my eyes with the expanded universe. Because we have all these other writers who write Missy true to the personality Moffat created for her, but they actually treat her like the Master. And she's become so much better for it. Like she's so much more intimidating, and really the thing that Missy has over the other Masters is she's so unpredictable. Like, you never know what she's gonna do. She could kill you in a moment's notice. And here's the thing, unlike the other Masters where you become expendable as soon as you've worn out your usefulness to them, Missy could still kill you if you're useful to her. Like, that is how unpredictable she is. And it's something Michelle Gomez does brilliantly. Like, I know I just said this, but of all the Manic Maniac Masters, she is John Sim done right. Number 2, the Reborn Master, Alex McQueen. Oh, Alex McQueen is just glorious as the Master. Like, the way he revels in what he's doing. It's not just that he's killing people or causing mayhem, it's how he's enjoying doing it. And now that I've listened to Ravenous, I kind of understand why. He is the first permanent incarnation after Jeffrey Beavers, So, like, Anthony Ainley, Eric Roberts, those were just possessions, and eventually those bodies got destroyed, reverting those masters back to Jeffrey Beavers. So, a decaying husk at the end of his life, suddenly the master gets a new regeneration cycle, and he turns into Alex McQueen, who has this new lease on life. And it kind of allows him to become the most unhinged incarnation of the master. Like, this is the one who... So, over the course of this list, I've talked about the Manic Maniac Masters. Again, very outwardly psychotic, very manic, crazy energy. John Sim, Michelle Gomez, Sacha Dhawan, and Alex McQueen. McQueen is the best Manic Maniac, hands down. And it's this zeal for his new life he has that really motivates him just to do the absolutely monstrous things he does. And just, like I said, his energy is the best part of his performance, and just his willingness to be cruel. But there can be only one, and if you've seen some of my other videos, well, if you know who's left too, you know where this is going. Number one, my favorite master, the War Master, Sir Derrick Jacoby. Now, if the War Master didn't exist, and we only had his cameo in Utopia, Derrick Jacoby wouldn't have even made the list, no matter how amazing he was, because, again, that wasn't a proper run as the Master. That was a cameo. But through his spin-off, we get the most evil incarnation of the Master, because the Master just absolutely thrives in the Time War. This is what he was made for. An era of unparalleled chaos. And, essentially an agent of chaos just thriving in his element. Jacoby is the only incarnation of the Master I'm actually scared of. Yes, I've talked about this with the others. Some of the Masters do scary things, but Jacoby is just utterly terrifying. And, it's his complete disregard for the lives around him. Like, in The Master of Callus, the War Master Series 2, there is a planet with a valuable element used in making ships and weapons and stuff that both the Time Lords and the Daleks want. After the Master mines this planet hollow, he just goes the extra step of poisoning the mine so that no one can go down there. And along with that, he completely wipes out the population of this planet. This is what this Master does. He cares about himself and nothing but himself. And, and like I said, it's the complete disregard he shows for anything else that kind of adds to just how terrifying he is. And the disguise aspect. It's just something Jacoby does brilliantly, because Delgado, it was more of a joke, like, no one knew who the Master was except the doctors, so he wore these really, quite frankly, silly disguises that anyone could see through. And then Ainley had really good makeup. Like, if you didn't want to know it was him, you wouldn't until the reveal, because the makeup was just that good. But Jacoby, he just relies on his acting, and it shows how great of a performer he is, because he plays up the guise of the sweet, harmless old man. And even you as a viewer buy into it. The acting is just that good. And then you get the reveal and you see what a monster he is. It is chilling, and just Jacoby is my favorite Master. And it's so good. It's so good. I can't think of a proper way to conclude this. And there you have it. That is my ranking for the Master. What are your thoughts? How would you rank the incarnations of the Master? Please start a conversation in the comments below. And remember to like, comment, subscribe, and click the bell next to subscribe to get notifications when I upload. And in the description box below, you'll find the link to my Twitter where you can follow me and get updates on the channel. This is Sir Jedi Sentinel, and I'll see you guys next time.